Hi, welcome to the RAMS Agents Production Coaching Call. The goal of the call is to help you sell more homes by maximizing your repeat and referral closings and implementing the Referral Agent Mastery System into your practice. My name is Mike Cerrone, co-founder of RAMS Agents, and my co-host is Angela Newman, a master trainer of RAMS Agents. Hello, Angela. How are you today?
Hello, everyone. I am doing fantastic and very glad to be here and see you guys here.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to have a great call today. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to try to cover a couple different ideas. But let's start off with some good news. Who has some good news they'd like to share?
I um I was just gonna say that I had a little bit of a scare this morning, but it's turned out to be good in the end. My Tennessee license had expired. That's not good. So, but my broker caught it. She texted me early this morning, said, "Hey, what's up with this?" And we got it figured out. I had missed a payment that I needed to make, that I thought everything was handled. But anyway, we got it paid this morning. It was instantly reinstated, and I'm in good business. So that's my good news. I'm still licensed.
A close call. Yeah, no doubt. It's funny, right? All these little plates that we're spinning in the air all the time. Sometimes some of them slip off. So it sounds like it slipped off, but you caught it before you hit the floor. So good job. Good job. I'll also just share a little technique that I just used, and you can use it in your listing appointments or with your buyers or anywhere else that you need to get someone's input, feedback, decision, etc. You'll notice what I did a minute ago is I asked a question and then I was silent. And human beings don't like silence when they're interacting with other human beings. And they want to fill the gap. It becomes a vacuum. And you typically, if you're doing this right, the other person will respond. It's the biggest problem that most real estate agents have because we tend to be I personalities, outgoing, gregarious, and we like to fill that space if the other person's not filling it because it can become uncomfortable. But you can use that to your advantage by knowing what's going on, and you need to get input from the party that you're talking to. I keep going back to listing appointments, but that's where you're meeting somebody for the first time. You need to get a lot of information on the situation so you can assist them. And it's often very helpful to ask the question and not say anything. So I want you to practice that this week. That's a little assignment. Practice the pause, right? Everybody practice the pause. That's homework assignment number one. Practice the pause. All right, who else would like to share some good news?
So I sent out my first email newsletter for the year. So I didn't make it in January, but got my February newsletter out.
That is fantastic, Angela. Congratulations. Know you were having some challenges there with the CRM. And how did you resolve it?
So I tried using a CRM that had an email with the brokerage link to it. Well, that brokerage, that email in particular, reputation was not the best. So I was having trouble with deliverability. So I went to my Gmail and I was just emailing out a regular news, like a regular email, but with photos and links and stuff. And that worked fine, but I still wanted something pretty. And so I went back to MailChimp. um, I used one of my domains, paid for a Microsoft email account, which is really pretty inexpensive, and linked that email to my MailChimp account, which MailChimp does recommend. Any of those email services really recommend that, because you can build your own reputation. It's not based on somebody else's. And so far, I can see, I love MailChimp. I can see who opens it, how many times they open it. Um, But it ended up being a less than $100 solution, and I probably, but I'm thankful for all of the journey because now I know and I can definitely help somebody else if they get in that situation.
Yeah, that's the power of this mastermind, right? So you had a solution that ultimately cost $100, but it actually cost you what, 3, 4, 5 months of time trying to figure it out. Yeah, and so we can speed other people up on this deliverability problem. That was the problem, right? It wasn't getting to the destination.
I can make a beautiful newsletter or a fine newsletter in the CRM. It wasn't getting to the people. Yeah. And so I kept testing it and trying different things. And so I found a Band-Aid, which was just sending it through my regular Gmail as an email. But now I got back to, okay, let's make it nice and pretty.
And the Gmail solution was fine, but you were having to send like one at a time, right?
Mhm. No, I did a blind carbon copy. So it basically went to myself. I wasn't, so you're not able to do an individualized, well, maybe you can. I just don't have that knowledge of how to make an individualized, hi, this is, hi, Mike, like you can with MailChimp, but it worked fine. I would just send it as a group email and they would only see me. And if they replied, it would only go back to me.
Could you send it to your entire group at once through Gmail,
hmm
like 50
hmm
some people or whatever it was?
I
Okay,
did it in 2 batches because I didn't want to get my Gmail flagged for spamming people.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the beauty of the service, right? The email services.
Mhm.
I've been using them for a long, long time. I use Aweber, you're using MailChimp, Constant Contact is out there. There's a lot of these services. And most of them, by the way, they offer to get you, like, they want you to get started. And so you can get a free version for maybe for a small batch, a small number of subscribers. Uh, I think mine is 200 now. They keep changing things. And I think MailChimp, it used to be 500. Is it still 500?
It is 500. Yes. And I have multiple MailChimp accounts. So I can, if technically, if I wanted to stay free like that, I probably could with dividing it up into leads, PCSOI, um, my coaching to agents. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the PCSOI, that's our focus here for everybody. And it's pretty rare that someone's going to have a PCSOI bigger than 500. So you can definitely do this approach as a free system, which is pretty amazing to get this information out there. And again, the key is the deliverability. There are a lot of systems that will send email, but they may not get received. And Angela gave you some great insights there. First of all, she used the service that is a professional service to make sure that these things are sent out properly and they have their own reputation that the receivers can see that where it's coming from. And the second part is that she got an email address that's more likely to be received and not sent to spam. And Angela, I'm not sure if you addressed that here. I've heard this situation a couple times. So I believe that you had a dot. There's a lot of different dot blanks out there now, and you had changed it. Could you tell us about that?
So yes, that's another lesson learned throughout this process, which made it a little more painful this week. But I picked a dot group because I thought, oh, I'm building a team and group is in the name, so I can just do the name dot group. Yay, they have a dot group. And then I go in and linked it to the MailChimp account and it was going to spam. And so I did a little Googling and research. And a lot of those new dot whatevers are so new that they haven't built their own reputation and they're seen as potential spam because they're either cheaper to obtain or just, haven't been around a long time. So it said they recommend using a .com. Well, I had a .com, but then I had to go in and switch my Microsoft account email because I just created that account, which was a little bit of work, but it can be done. So if that ever happens, you can change your if you paid for an account, you can change that to a different domain.
Great point. That's again for anybody that's going down this path, or you now have heard this and you'll remember it if you go down the path in the future. Angela just gave you a gold mine of information there, and not only in money but in time. The big key that is for us is we never get our time back, and so she may have just saved somebody months and months and months of frustration. So I really appreciate that, Angela, and the insight there. I think the reason that the .com and the non.com probably doesn't work as well is because of spoofers. You know, people are trying to take advantage, scammers trying to take advantage of other people, and they'll send out from Nike group or whatever. You know, there's so many different ones out there now, and they're trying to take a variation on a legitimate company, and so it kind of looks real. That's my guess. I don't know that. I haven't researched it. But it's really insightful that you shared with us that it's best to have a .com for deliverability, if you can at all. Probably the oldest ones, right? So .com, .net, .org, I'm assuming, but definitely .com would be the best. And again, the other big insight here is you can send out to your PCSOI and get higher deliverability by using a service which can be free. Great insight. Oh, and the final part there is a lot of these services, they already have a template that you can use for a newsletter, and or they have a builder. They have a block builder that's very easy to organize and put together your own newsletter or email that you want to send out for people that haven't used it before. Any other insight, Angela, before we go on?
No, I think that covered it. So lots of
Does
free
anybody have any
options out
questions
there.
I'm sorry, Angela, I talked over you. Does anybody else have any questions for Angela about her newsletter and the email experience, and if you're thinking about doing it?
Angela, you mentioned that you were using a .com, so it's to your URL and you also mentioned Microsoft. Now, are you purchasing this email address through Microsoft, or you just set it up like in whatever Outlook, and that's how you're normally using it?
So Outlook is linked to Microsoft. So I said Microsoft, but it's actually an Outlook email account
Okay.
that was created by Microsoft. And because there's different options for a paid for email, but for some reason, when you pay for an email service and don't use a free one like Yahoo or Gmail, it has a better reputation.
Very good. Thank you.
To help a little bit on that, if it's given clarity, if you were setting this up and you wanted to have your own individual email address, your own individual domain name, what you would do is you go purchase a domain name from a company like GoDaddy, which just happens to be one I use. There's a lot out there. These are domain name services, and you purchase the domain, and then you can set up either with GoDaddy or your domain company, or with the email provider. In this case, it was Outlook and Microsoft. You can set up unique email addresses. So your name at the domain, service at the domain, contact at domain, support at the domain. There's a lot of different variations then now that you own that domain that you can create multiple email addresses. All right, cool. All right, let's go on. And good job, Angela. Does anybody else have some good news that you would like to share? Please share.
I'll just share quickly. We have a transaction closing on the 28th, and the folks are across the other side of the country. So we have a legal principle here in Alberta where it has to be wet ink on the legal documents. So we've been back and forth with couriers, and I got the good news yesterday that the documents are in hand. So, I'd like to say that I'm always super zen about trusting in the process of these things, but no, I've been on the edge of my seat thinking like, come on, no bumps in the road on this one. So real kind of breath of relief that the documents are in hand and everything's looking good for the closing on the 20th.
Fantastic, Steve. Congratulations. That's great news. Good job on getting the closings lined up. Um, yeah, the old wet ink issue, we used to call it blue ink, wet ink. Um, did you have a backup plan? And what I mean by that is in your area, can you do powers of attorney to sign for the client or have you, by the way, usually the agent doesn't want to be the power of attorney, but a relative or a friend or somebody local that could be the power of attorney for, I don't know if it's the buyer or the seller, but whoever your client is. Do you have that option?
That's a great question, Mike. And to be completely frank, I don't know. So that's that's insightful in this. If I'm ever in this case again, yeah, I'd have to look into that.
Okay, great. As you all know, I'm not your legal counsel. I'm not even in your area. Be sure to check that out with your broker. But in our area, that is an option that we can use a power of attorney. And if you get into that world, just be careful. Get non-legal advice is be careful because you don't want to be the power of attorney because um, you're an interested party. You have conflicts of interest in signing off. You could sign off on your commission doubled or tripled, right? I mean, you can't. You got to be very careful when you're signing for somebody else. And so what we would typically do in the old days, at least, is we would have a friend, family, relative, somebody who is local in our area who could sign off for that person who wasn't present. And that was our backup. And we would set that backup, even if we were trying to do what you're doing, which is deliver the documents to the other area and get it back and forth in case something broke down, truck broke down, didn't bring the documents back. So good luck. Thank you for sharing and good job on getting the closing going. All right, cool. Anybody else have some good news you'd like to share? Tristan, you have some good news. You're on vacation.
For the business, good news is update on the website. Sent out those photos and the bios, so should be making some progress on that this week and hopefully get that live by the end of the week.
That's fantastic. Good job. Don't work too much out there on vacation. Where did you say you're at?
Cancun.
Cancun. What a drag. Good for you. That's good. Well, it's a well-deserved vacation. All right, everybody, let's do this. Let's redirect our focus. Let's talk about the focus of this meeting, which is how to get more repeats and referrals. I like to review some things on occasion, and I'm going to go through a couple of pieces of reviews to help us get set up. Because right now is a critical time in the success of your 2025 year, right? In fact, we're already getting into it. It's not too late to turn things around if things aren't going where you want them to go. But you are at a point, at a juncture where you have to take action right now if you haven't been taking enough action. And I say that because most markets are spring dependent, right? There's a lot of activity that happens in your spring. There are some markets that I've talked to that aren't. They usually are resort markets of some type, but most markets in North America, we get our big burst of activity coming out of the winter, going into the spring. People get the spring fever. And so we get that in March, April, and May. You'll see that big, giant burst of activity. And I had Steve do a project to prove this a couple weeks back. And I'll just share that project real fast with everybody. If you want to know if your market follows this, and you should know this when you're talking to clients, go out and just look in your MLS, do a little bit of research, and find out how many sales are occurring every month. Okay, and then graph it. It's best if you can see it. So you'll see a graph, and I hope I'm doing this correct. If this is January and this is December, in my market, it goes up like this in the spring, and then it comes down in the summer, and then it flips again in September, and then it comes back out. There's always sales going on, but there's a lot of sales that happen in the spring, a lot of activity. And remember, if that sale is happening, that meant the person was getting into the market 30, 60, 90 days before that to lead up to that activity. And that's where we are now. In fact, we're running out of runway here for those times. That's why I'm saying now is the time to get in front of your friends, family, past clients, and make sure that they remember that you are available. Do not assume that they know. That's That's the biggest cry that we do in real estate is our friend, family member, et cetera. They hired somebody else because they forgot we were in real estate. And it's not their fault. It's our fault. We didn't stay in front of them. So make sure you're doing that. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that today. Real fast, again, that's homework number 2 assignment if you haven't done it yet. And that is track in your MLS, your market, the number of sales every month, and then put it in a graph so you can see the action. Steve, you did that a couple weeks ago. How long did it take to do that research?
It was only about probably 45 minutes, and I was able to do a number of different data sources, which was helpful. Once I got into it and was using the system, I thought, oh, I'll have a look at this, and there were some different data points that were really quite interesting.
And did you find it insightful? Was it helpful? Did you learn something?
Absolutely. I think what it really drove home is, correlations, for example, of days on market, total inventory, list to sell ratios. All of those had some really interesting trends related to exactly that booming spring market, peak, then slow down, and then, like you said, that uptick just after all the kids get back to school. That was another really insightful piece of data, related to months of supply, really, and where we're at in our market from a balanced perspective. Are we really leaning towards sellers? Are we evened out a little more? Are we, giving buyers a little more advantage? Just overall, the data was insightful.
That's fantastic, Stephen. You're going to be more informed now as you get in front of your clients, your buyers and the sellers. And that trend that I shared, this graph, which we're in different markets, and you just shared it's the same in your market, even with the blip in September. I shared that so many times with sellers, people I've never met, because I used to go out and meet a lot of strangers to list their homes. I say that because that's the hardest listing presentation. And because you have to create trust and show that you're knowledgeable. And so one of the things I would often do is I would take a piece of paper and flip it over, and I would just draw that graph. So I would draw that graph for them. They would see it, and it just would immediately click as soon as you drew it. Because not everybody's good with numbers, but if you show them a visual, most people like visuals, and they're like, oh, okay. And you say, here's where we are on the graph, right? You point to where you are in the spectrum of the seasonality on that timeline. All right, good. So that's a little homework assignment for everybody. Let's keep going. So on past clients, which is your number one, or should be your number one source, and in your sphere, your friends and family as well. You need to create the list. Everybody, I hope, has created their list, and they're updating it as they move along. And if that list is going to become your gold mine throughout time. And I want to share some information I learned from doing research with all the top agents over the last decade and a half, and the top solo agents, which I think are most informative in this area, because they tend to focus on PCSOI. They're getting the majority of their vast majority, 80% more or more of their business is coming from PCSOI. And you're thinking, well, PCSOI, I only get like 3 closings a year out of it, or 10 closings or whatever. These people are getting 25, 40, 50, 70, 80, 100, over 100. I'm thinking one lady 180, 168, even though an agent, she's real outlier, but 300 closings a year from the PCSOI. They can do some amazing things, and you can do amazing things with your PCSOI, but you got to understand what it is. And I saw all these patterns, and so I'm kind of sharing the conclusion with you so you can get a view of where you're going with this thing. And what I also talked, by the way, to a lot of agents who were not top performers, who were on the path to getting there and wanting to do it. And so I had a lot of good data points. And the pattern I saw and the way I simplified in my head is if you have a list of your PCSOI and you're just getting going and you're working it, you may not have a perfect system yet, but you're working it, you'll typically get about 5% of your list repeating and referring. All right, so if you have a list of 100 people, that's 5 closings a year, okay? And the beauty of this, by the way, is that's every year. You'll keep repeating. okay? Because a different group of people, different 5 each year, will either repeat or send you a referral. Now, once you get established and you start working the system and you're getting more consistent, you're doing better frequency, you're getting a higher quality output there, then what we're noticing is it would jump up to about 10%. It would actually double. So there are a lot of agents out there that are getting 10% of their list repeating and referring. So your same group of 100 people is now kicking out 10 closings every year, right? Pretty good stuff. And then I go to the top solo agents because they really focus on this. They're masters of it. And they all tend to congregate around the 20% mark. Pretty outstanding. 1 in 5 people on their list is either repeating or referring. And if you look at it, you know it's not repeating. Most of that is coming from referral. So they're tapping into other people's networks because they're so well connected to their list. But the result is they have this list and about 10% of that is repeating and referring every year. So they have a list of 100. They're having 20 closings each and every year. So that's the goal. That's where you want to go. And by the way, I talked to a lot of people where that number was higher. It was 24%. I'm thinking of one person, and one guy actually hit 33%, which was phenomenal. And by the way, that was a lot of closings he did that year. He had a list of 300 and he closed 100 transactions by referral. So it was very focused and intentional. But I want you to know that your goal in your mind should be, I'm probably going to start out around 5. And once I get maybe a year under my belt and I get some good experience, I should be able to bump that up to 10. And then once I get that mastered, I should be able to go up to 20. That should be your goal. So your goal is to make your list more productive through time, trying to get up to that 20% mark. Once you hit 20, you're not going to really be able to squeeze a lot more out of it. But if you're at 5, you can double your list by going to 10. If you're at 10, you can double your list, your number of closings by going to 20. Okay. And then the second part is you want to start adding more people to the list. Although you want to be very careful about that because this is a very special list. These people know, like, and trust you. So you have a connection with these people. If you met them on the street or in the grocery store, you're walking down the aisle and you come bumping each other, you would recognize each other and could strike up a conversation. That's how we say these people should be on this special list. If you're walking down the aisle, you don't recognize each other, you can't talk to each other, then they don't belong on this list. They just belong on some other list, a different marketing list. This is a very special list. PCSY, do not dilute it. Do not dilute it with junk, with people that should not be in here, okay? But you should be trying to figure out ways to add to the list. Like, could you take people who you kind of know, but they're not in this group yet, and take them to lunch? And now you know each other, you've made a relationship, now they can pop on this list. I mean, one lunch, and now you could take somebody off of a I don't know you list to I'm putting you on my I know you list, and they come into your PCSY. So that could be a strategy for growing your PCSY over time. You do that once a week. That's, you added 50 people a year, and 50 people a year, if you've got this dialed in and you're doing 20%, that's an extra 10 closings in a year. What's your average commission just by bringing people to lunch, right? As a strategy, there's an example. How much is a lunch today? I don't know. Let's say for 2 people and it's a nice lunch, $50. Well, $50 times 50 over the year is $2,500. If your average commission is, I'm just going to round the numbers to keep it simple. If your average commission is $10,000 and you get an extra 10 closings, it's $100,000 for a $2,500 investment. Most people would say, I'll do that. Right? So anyway, I want you to think of that. How can I bring extra people onto this list? And remember the 5, 10, 20. That's your guideline. That's your track that you're running on. Does everybody know what their number is from last year? Do you know what your referral productivity percentage, by the way, is what I call this number, this 5, 10, 20% referral productivity percentage? Do you all know what your number is? Did you know how big your list was last year of PCSY and how many closings you got out of that? The only way you'll know is if you track. You track where the closing came from. You should, every time you have a closing, you should go back and dissect it and say, where'd that person come from? And you should be writing it down in your notes and then putting it on a spreadsheet. But you got to track it somewhere. right now, and you got to use your memory. Like you might be able to do last year, harder to do 2 years ago, really hard to do 10 years ago, right? Just try to remember where all these people came from. So if you haven't done it, your assignment number 3, got a homework day. Assignment number 3 is I want you to go back to last year and find out where are you? Where am I? Where do I sit in this spectrum? How many people were in my PCSOI last year? And how many closings did I get out of that? Okay. From that, you can figure out where you are in the percentage curve. Let's say you do that and you find out you're at 3%. At first, you're going to be a little depressed because you're going to be like, oh my gosh, 3%. I should be doing way better than 3%. And you're right, 3% is very low. However, you should get excited because if you're at 3%, oh my gosh, you could double multiple times to get up to 20, right? A double from 3 is 6, a double from 6 is 12, and a double from 12 is 24. You could double up to 3 times where you started from. I do that right? So 6, 12, yeah, 3 times. So let's say you close 3, you could get that up to 24 closings. I mean, that's pretty amazing, right? Just by focusing on this. Is this helpful? All right, good. Yeah, sometimes you got to get back to the basics. And as you all know, I love stories. And when I was younger, in my 20s, I was interested in Taekwondo, martial arts. And so I went and became a student. And I was a white belt. And they taught me how to kick and how to punch and how to block. And I thought, oh, this is really cool, right? And so I tested and I got to go up to yellow belt. Yay. And so then I go to the next class and I'm expecting the big secrets. You know, tell me the big stuff. What's next? And the instructor, the master, he said, all right, well, do that punch again and do the kick again and do the block again. And I worked my way all the way up to black belt. And every single time it was the same thing. I kept doing the same punch and the same kick and the same block. And I eventually asked the guy, I'm like, why am I doing the same thing over and over again? I thought I was going to learn how to jump around and twist and spin and jump backwards and all kinds of weird stuff. He said, mastery is becoming expert at the basics. He said, you cannot become a master until you understand how to do the core, the basic thing better than anybody else. Okay, I was doing punches and kicks and blocks. You're doing listing appointments, initial contacts with clients, follow-up systems, nurturing. You've got to get really good at these basics and master them. And quite honestly, it's boring. One final little insight on that. 30 years ago, I saw Mike Ferry speak. He was much younger. I was much younger. And he talked about this idea that he threw an idea out that blew my mind at the time. He said, you know, the people that are the most successful in real estate are not the smartest. And I, come on, you know, smart people do really good things. What do you mean? It's like smart people, they always want to learn something new. They always want to change things. They always want to go a different direction. They want a lot of variety. He said, usually the people with the lower IQs do really well in real estate. I said, that can't be true. That's impossible. And his point, though, was, as he went on and on, was they're okay with repetition. They're okay with mastering the basics. They're okay with doing the same thing over and over again that keeps producing a result. And they get slightly better each and every time, while other people that are so smart are going off in multiple directions and they're creating all these different systems and they never get any traction because they're not doing the basics.
You know, Mike, I remember a book title. I think I have it. I have the book. It's probably 20 years ago, a real estate investment book, and the title was, "Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich?" It makes sense. Exactly what you're saying. And it was basically stick with the basics and you'll be rich down the road. But you got to listen to your mentor and just follow the pattern, follow the plan.
Absolutely, Blake. Now, the caveat is you have to follow a proven plan, right? If you follow a dumb plan, yeah, it probably won't work out. Like, uh, uh, if you're, well, I'm not, my mind is going to some crazy places. There are a lot of dumb ways to try to do business. But if you can follow a proven plan, something that's worked repetitively for other people, it's going to work for you. And RAMS, a referral agent master system, is based on just seeing what these top people are doing and just reducing it down to their system and showing it to you. It probably looks simple after you do look at it a couple times, like, oh yeah, I already know that. That's like the worst words in real estate, right? I already know that. Okay, but are you doing it? That's always the question. All right, so let's do this. With that in mind, we've created the RAM system for you. We've shared with you the outline, the guide. We can look at it in just a minute. That we have the quick start guide that we've created for you. In that quick start guide, we talk a lot about event marketing because a lot of the top agents do event marketing, their PCSOI, and there's a very simple reason. You have to get in front of your people, your friends, family, past clients, repetitively and frequently, because you don't know when they're going to decide to move. You don't know the day they're going to wake up and say, I got to move today, right? I've decided I'm moving for whatever the reason. If we knew that day, if we actually knew that day in advance, we could just call them up the day before and say, hey, remember I'm in real estate. If you ever think about moving, give me a call. And the next day they wake up and they give you a call. But that's not going to happen. So we don't know that day. And so we have to stay in touch with them and frequently stay in touch with them, a minimum of once a month, to try to be there when they wake up and they have that need, either them personally or their family or their friends. Says, yeah, I'm thinking, their friend bumps into them at work, says, yeah, I'm thinking about moving. And they go, I got a great guy for you. You got to give Blake a call, right? That's what you want to have happen, but it ain't going to happen if they can't remember your name at that particular time. And they got a million other things going on in their life, just like you. You have a million things going on in your life, right? Name your dentist. Did you have to pause and think? You probably know the answer, but you had to think about it, right? So name the person that helped you buy your last car. Oh, I bet you nobody can do that. There are very few. We used to have a guy that helped us buy and sell cars, and we've referred out to all our family and so forth. I know his name right here. And that's where you want to get with your real estate business, so that if somebody bumps into someone who needs your service, they can immediately throw your name out. The only way it's going to happen, though, is frequency. You've got to keep reminding people, hey, I'm here, right? That's why Coca-Cola spends billions and billions on these ads that just keep going out with the red and white. They just try to remind people, if you get thirsty, I'm here. If you're thirsty, I'm here, okay? And they didn't stop. They didn't stop after they hit all these big sales. They have to keep doing it. Well, we do too. All right. So that's what RAMS is about, is how can you get in front of your people? How can you talk to them frequently? And the next part of that, though, is without being a pest. You don't want to be a pest, right? You can call them up and say, hey, are you thinking about moving in the next year? You can do that once, and they'll be like, yeah, well, maybe, no, probably not. Okay. But if you call them up the next day and go, hey, you thinking about moving this year? And you call them up the next day, hey, you thinking about moving this year? And you call them up an hour later, you think about moving this year? After a while, they're like, I'm not talking to Mike ever again. That guy is crazy, right? So that I like to go to extremes. Extremes prove the point for me. So if you just went too frequently, well, the top agents figured that out. They were okay with making the call, just a raw call, but they realized if they did it too frequently, that the person wouldn't answer the phone, or it'd be a very difficult conversation. And so they start to look for other ways to reach out and get in front of the people without asking the direct question. And that's where they came up with, they tried a lot of different things, provide value, probably heard that over time, provide a lot of value, offer free CMA, a market analysis. That's true, but that's value if somebody's interested in the market. If they're not interested, how can you get in front of them? See, the top agents, they were asking these questions, and they came up with solutions. And one of the solutions was a client appreciation party. And they do a giant party at the end of the year to let everybody know, hey, I really appreciate your business. Thank you so much for thinking about me. Boom. And they would do it once a year, and it was very expensive. It was real a blowout, a lot of fun. What they learned though was that people would not remember that 6 months later. It had a lot of excitement for maybe 30 days or maybe even 6 days, but it wouldn't play out for the whole year. So they were getting a quick little boost, but it didn't work all the way around. And so these agents over time, they start saying, that worked really good then. I wonder if I could do it more frequently. And they started doing them quarterly, once every 3 months. They would do an event. Okay. And they also realized the event didn't have to be super expensive. They could do a smaller, less expensive event and get the same effect. So instead of doing a giant gala and a blowout, they would bring people to putt-putt or meet them at a coffee shop, or they had all kinds of different things that they would do, Easter egg hunts, hand out candy on Halloween, give a pie for Thanksgiving. They figured out all these other little things that would work that weren't as expensive as the big gala, and they would do more frequently. And the big teams, we can learn from the big teams, what they learned is, geez, instead of doing it once a quarter, let's do it once a month. And they were getting massive result because they realized in their big team, not everybody would do it each month, but if they put on an event every month, maybe their people in their team would do it once every couple months, right? It would all balance out through the course of the year. Well, most of the people here are solo agents. We have some teams, but mainly solo agents, and that's what's mainly in the industry. So you should be thinking about, how could I get out there quarterly? Quarterly would be a great number for you. And because we talked about the seasonality earlier, we can use a strategy, which is we're going to front end load that. So you want to do more of it at the beginning of the year than the end of the year. So it's not actually every 3 months. If you're going to do the events, do them like every 2 months at the beginning of the year, and then you could even skip some time and then maybe hit them at the end of the year, because we know that big wave is coming of business. And that's where we are right now, right? We're circling back. We're in the big wave. So you should be thinking about doing events every month right now if you're behind to get in front of your people, or at least every other month or every 45 days right now. Right now, we're sitting here on February 25th. We're almost into March. Remember, the wave is about to hit in a week or two. I mean, my gosh, we're behind the curve if we haven't already been getting in with the people. But it's not too late. You're just going to have to go harder, faster, and do more right now. Again, doesn't mean you're going to call them up every day, but you may want to get in front of them maybe every 21 days, right? Every 3 weeks or something right now, to make sure that they remember you're in real estate. And the funnest way to do it is the event, because you're inviting them to something fun. Okay. So instead of hey, you thinking about moving? It's, hey, would you like to join my event? Hey, would you like to get into a raffle where I'm giving away money? Okay. I'm giving away a gift card. Would you like to, whatever you decide to do as an event. We just had the Valentine's Day giveaway last month. Up here now, you're always looking for something you can tie into. So as we're moving into March, we've got St. Patrick's Day. That's a great event to do. It's a great holiday to tie into because most people celebrate that and understand it. They like the green. There's something in their life that they enjoyed about it. Getting pinched if you weren't wearing green as a kid, all these little things. And so you can tie into that knowledge and excitement and tie it to you, that fun. By having a St. Patrick's Day event. So you could just do one of our giveaways. We love giveaways. They're very cheap. They're very inexpensive. We're talking about $175 for the typical cost of the event. I mean, how low is that? I mean, we're not talking about these $17,000 galas they used to do. We're talking about $175. But you're going to get the same effect. You're going to get your name out there. Remember, it's the invitation. You're getting in front of all these people. You're inviting all these people. Some of them will participate, some of them won't. It doesn't matter. The invitation to all the people, put your name in front of them, right? And they're like, oh man, that Steve is awesome. He just invited us to this event. Oh, wow. What is Steve? Oh yeah, Steve is in real estate. That's right. And now it just brought it back up in their mind. Remember, everybody has a list of 3 things, top 3, whatever in their mind, top 3 mechanics, top 3 drinks they like to drink, top 3, whatever. And you're moving into the 3 and hopefully to the top every time you reintroduce yourself to them. All right, so events. Everybody should be considering doing something here in March. I'm going to recommend a St. Patrick's Day event. Again, it could be the giveaway, but also could be one we came up with the other day, which is the scratch off lottery tickets. Perfect for St. Patty's Day because, the luck of the Irish and get lucky and a pot of gold and the whole 9 yards that is already in people's mind. We don't have to put it there. We're just tying into it. And so you could, if I were doing it right now, I would get some some little cards, either just blank cards with a nice little picture on the front to get started if I want to go real quick, or maybe a St. Patrick's Day card if you want to go a little higher quality. And I'd write them a little note out to my PCSOI. I'd start with my top 10 and see if I can get to my top 20 and go to my top 50 and whatever. And what I'm doing is I'm writing a little note in there, and then I'm going to drop one of the scratch off cards in, maybe cost you $1 or $2 depending on your area, and I'm going to mail it out to them with a hand addressed envelope, so they're going to open it, right? And in that note, haven't formalized this, but the basic concept is, hey, just thinking about you, hope you have a happy St. Patrick's Day, and I hope you have the luck of the Irish. And boom, you drop that card in there and you send it out. You just moved up on their list. And also, if you take that softer approach, this is why the top agents take the soft approach. It took me a long time to figure this part out. You're moving from business to personal. You're moving from an acquaintance to a friend. Okay. You're moving from the outside of their inner circle to their inside of their inner circle. Does that make sense? So that's why you're looking for ways you can do this in a fun, enjoyable way. Again, I try to emphasize, if you're a hardcore business person like I was, I didn't get this initially. And so I keep emphasizing it. This idea of getting close to them in friendship in our particular business also works to generate more business. So it's this fun loop, unless you're the kind of person that doesn't like friends. Well, then this won't work. But if you like friends, this is a great idea because you're able to get more friends into your loop and it generates more business because people move. All right, so that's the big picture. What do y'all think about the St. Patty's Day scratch off card concept?
I like it, but I like that you gave the rationale and the explanation, because when you get kind of right to the event, sometimes it might seem maybe silly or maybe unprofessional. But when you provide the rationale of like making a stronger connection and moving from strictly professional and businessman to like friend and like, like a closer relationship, it makes more sense. So I really like the whole preamble that you did before getting to the event, because it provides the right mind frame to have when you're making these reach outs and making these connections with your people.
Thank you, Tristan. Thank you.
I thought of another one too, Mike. Just hit me. I was thinking about, we're in Georgia and Tennessee right now. This week is our first week of, actually we're going to hit 70 degrees. We're starting to feel the spring is on the way. And I realized within just a couple of weeks, I could do a dinner on a patio kind of, pick out maybe a restaurant or a couple of restaurants with nice patio seating and just say, do a contest and just say, hey, I'm feeling the spring in the air. What a great time to go have dinner on a patio. I'm giving away some gift cards. Very similar to what you're saying, but just another opportunity.
Absolutely, Blake. And because I know your situation, I'm gonna try to just give another idea. We're brainstorming here, right? A little masterminding. You have your farm, right? You've got your goats. What about doing a little barbecue out there on the farm? Because see, it ties into your brand of being the country living guy. You got these goats, you got the farm, you got it's rural. If they're in the real rural environment, they love it. If you're a city boy like me, I'd love to go to that kind of stuff. I like to see the way other things play out and how other people and cultures work. I'm there too, man. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So just an idea that you might want to spin on that is, you've been doing a lot of events at your property. That might be another cool event to do, a little barbecue of some kind, right?
Yeah, and
Just
another
no goat
point,
meat. Just no
and
goat meat.
another point to add on to that, Blake and Mike, is like I think hearing from it as the perspective of being invited, it feels much different to get invited to your house as a personal invitation rather than to get into like a draw to maybe have a dinner at a patio. So like the personal invitation to come to your house is like, oh, Blake likes me. Like that's my friend. Like he wants me to come to his house and come to this barbecue. Okay, I'll be there and I'll bring the wife and kids. But if it's like a contest or draw, then you just kind of feel like, okay, I got here because I'm lucky kind of thing. So it's not as strong of a connection and it's not as personal because it's not at your house.
And you could even have that catered, Blake. If you didn't want to prepare the food yourself, have it catered, have it brought in.
I was just thinking, this goes from $175 three coupons to a
Oh
whole
no.
different, but absolutely the payoff is worth it. Exactly for the very reasons that Tristan just said. It and you said that it ties to me. It's a very personal invitation when I'm saying come to my home and have dinner with us. That's a great it's a great plan. It will take a little more time to put that one together, but that's a great plan. I'm
And you
glad you
know,
thought of that, a barbecue with on the farm.
But something, Mike, that you said that's very important that I'd never clued into before was start with your top 10. And I never thought about ranking my PCSY, but when you said that, it's like right away I knew like, okay, this guy already gave me 2 referrals this year. This guy did business with me last year and gave a referral to me last year. So it's like, okay, I should start kind of ranking them in terms of priority of who are my actual core people out of the PCSOI. So that was a good insight too.
who's most likely
Incidentally,
to send you a referral? Someone
my
who's already sent you a referral.
my number one happens to own a barbecue restaurant, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yes. Yeah, let me open up just a little more insight here as we're winding down. the So a lot of the top agents will have their top 10, top 25, and they do special things for those people. For instance, I could think of one top agent who sold thousands of homes in his career, but he's still mainly a solo agent. Well, he's a solo agent now. He's done teams as well, but he still does a lot of transactions. And what he does is he invites people to his house to have a little dinner. So he'll only invite maybe a couple of couples, right? He likes couples. So he'll maybe invite 2 couples and then him and his um, spouse. And so now they've got 6 people there for a nice little get together, right? So you can do this on a small scale too, is what I'm trying to get out. If you're the kind of person who likes to cook or feed people, right? You can invite a small group to your house and you're helping them mingle. And what's the common thread of these people? You, you, and the real estate typically, right? So that's why it's so powerful to do this. And what they'll do is they'll do a different group of people each time, right? So they're bringing in different groups to match up with. And I'm helping a gal do some coaching, and she loves to feed folks at her home, a small group, these small little events. And so she's got it planned out for the whole year, by the way, once a month. She recently did one, brought some people together, a small group. And one of the people in that group later contacted her, I believe it was within 30 days, and said, yeah, I want to get another home. This home is not exactly what I was hoping for. Could you help me find another home? And she said, you bet. What are you looking for? 4.5 million. That's his budget. You don't have to have too many lunches or dinners to make that a very profitable event. Yes. So, yes, Tristan, you want to reduce your list and rank them top to bottom. And it typically is the people that have already supported you. They're going to support you again. They've already proven that that's what they like to do, and that's what they'll do again. Yeah. Again, hopefully this would help. I got all kinds of other ideas flooding in my head, but we're running out of time. Let me ask this. Is there anything that you all are in need of in the last few minutes here for your production that we haven't talked about yet? Okay. What I'm going to do, just super fast, as a quick reminder then. You've got this quick start guide. You have access to it. And I just want you to remind you that it's here, right? And if you have any, if you want to do any of these events or any of the marketing, either the email marketing, social media, preparing your list, email marketing, social media, direct mail, or these calls or events. If you're looking for scripts, if you're looking for format, it's already samples, it's already here for you to tap into. Like we just had Yevon in our group. He had heard that we were doing the St. Valentine's Day giveaway, and he just went right in here, he and his assistant, and looked at the event and used it as the template and put the thing in place. And what did he tell us? It went out to over 600 people ended up tapping into it one way or another. Those numbers blew my mind, right? So you can also get this effect where it rolls out. And he just did the giveaway, the simple little giveaway, $175, and it just rolled out to all these people through social media. I think it was how he got out to 600. But anyway, that's all in here. How you can do it, how you can promote it, all the language you need. Don't forget that it's here. Okay. All right, good. Anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap this up? All right, cool. Hopefully this was a helpful meeting today, and we gained a little bit of insight. Was it helpful? Okay, give me a little feedback. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, cool. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the production call. We're going to go right into our huddle real fast. And in our huddle, we're looking for two things from you. Number one thing you did last business day to move your business forward, and the number one thing you're going to do today to move your business forward. Remember, this creates some clarity in our mind. We get a pat on the back for what we did yesterday, and it gets us focused on today on what is the most important thing that we need to get done. All right, so who would like to start?
I'll start if that's okay with everyone. So the number one thing yesterday was getting the ball rolling on getting my website redesigned and up and running. And the number one thing for today is to clean up my trade records and my files and get them organized and in their, what do you call those, in their folders and stuff. So I'm not too meticulous with the admin stuff, but this is a great time to catch up on putting those past few deals where they belong in all those docs. So that's what I'm working on.
Tristan, that is fantastic. And I do, because I know you and your situation, I do want to make another statement. I hope it's okay. It's kind of a personal nature. And that is that your trade records and everything, that's not number one, that's number two. That's number two today. I'm sorry, that's number two today. Number one today is to connect with your wife. You two are on vacation. You haven't been on vacation for a while, right? You've got to, you don't have the kids there. You're in a beautiful place. Number one, connect with your wife, have some great memory building. And then number two, you can work on some real estate. Fair enough?
As always, Mike, I appreciate you keeping it real, giving me the real life insight and the gems that I need to hear when I need to hear them. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you.
You betcha, Tristan. I'm excited for you. Enjoy that vacation. All right, who else would like to share?
So for me, the number one thing I did yesterday is I did a deep dive into an area called Garrison Green here in Calgary. I got a call over the weekend from past clients, actually, and it was kind of one of those bittersweet calls, like in that, we really love these folks. Elderly couple moved from the other end of Canada actually to Calgary, and now they're going back. So it was kind of like, shoot, Mickey, I'm so sorry to hear that. And it's just life circumstances taking them back. So I said, hey, this is, the good news is the market has been great in Garrison Green. Let me do a deep dive into what that's looking like, and we'll reconvene, and I'll get you some data. And he's a really data-driven guy who's a business guy, so he was thrilled to, kind of be engaging in that right away. So yeah, I did a really good grind yesterday, have some reasonably good comparables, challenges, and I kind of prepped them for this. Is there's not a ton of comparables, but we do have is really going to give us an ability to price it, properly in the market. And yeah, I mean, it's bittersweet, gosh, we really love these guys, but life takes you to these places. So anyway, that was yesterday. Yeah, and today, actually, interestingly, from this call, I'm thinking, gosh, beyond the St. Patty's Day, what are some other avenues that I can open up? And I was thinking, just as we were sharing ideas, say no to the mow or something, where you set someone up to have their lawn cared for an entire year. You know what I mean? Where you just kind of get that out to people, partner business to business with a land, like a lawn care place, and just, that to me is something that people would be like, heck yeah, that'd be nice to not have to worry about that for a year. And it's a nice business to business opportunity. So that came to my mind just as we were sitting here. And I thought, if I sat and kind of really brainstormed this, I could probably kind of come up with some, for the future, some good ideas that are maybe a little off the beaten path, and kind of have a schedule. Like, so ultimately my goal would be to make that schedule today based on some preliminary ideas. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going today.
That's fantastic, Steve. And it's a great idea to have your annual marketing plan written up, an annual marketing plan all scheduled out. Just helped again, the gal we were talking about earlier, she's already got her entire year mapped out for all of her events. You all should have the same thing going, so that you don't even have to think about it, especially as you get busy over the next couple months. You don't want this part to slip through the cracks. You want to continue to reach out for that new business. In fact, new business generation should be your focus every single day. How am I going to get new business? Even if you're only working on it for 10 minutes, you got to always be thinking about how am I going to get future business. Really good. One other quick insight there. You mentioned about your guy being a data-driven guy, the person who's going to be moving. So on the disc profile, that would be a C. And so you'd want to indicate that in your records. So the next time you reached back out to them, so you knew that, but once you get your list so big, it's hard to remember all the folks right off the top of the bat. So a good thing to do is right next to their name in your database, you have a letter, DISC, and you indicate what their personality profile is. Like, this guy wants all the details. Some people are not like that. A D, for instance, doesn't want any details. They just want the bottom line. Boom, 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 boom. An S wants to know who else is using these services, or who else is connected here in this way, that they know in a personal way, where an I wants to know who else is involved in this, who's a celebrity or something fun and neat. And so you're working the disc profile into tracking who your people are, and then you can also tie that into marketing. Anyway, good luck with that today, Steve. Real excited to hear you're working on your marketing plan. All right, who else?
So yesterday, the number one thing I went to, we call it monthly neighbor lunch. So we have some neighbors here that we get together every month and go to a lunch or a breakfast. Actually, it was a breakfast yesterday. And always they ask me, how's real estate? So it worked out really well that I had already, our monthly stats come out around between the 12th and 15th of every month for both Oklahoma and Texas. So I had already dug into those, created my market update video, added the market update to my newsletter. And so when they asked me that, I was able to very easily share, oh, the market, this is what's going on in our area. This is what's going on in Houston. And so anyway, that was the number one thing yesterday. Today, my reach outs, my 3 reach outs, and adding a new person to my PCSOI.
That's cool, Angela. A quick thought. You did all the research and you go to the meeting with the neighbors. It's up to you, but maybe you could bring like a little postcard with the key stats. just the key
Mm-hmm.
stats written on it. Something you could hand out, say, hey, I just want you guys to know what's happening in the market. This is something so you can impress your friends. And you hand it to them, and they now know how many days in the market is the average and what the average sells. They usually want to know the price. So what's the average sales price or high and low sell price, days on the market, and maybe list to sales price ratio. Just a couple little stats they can use to impress their friends. Might be something interesting. And if you're in the neighborhood, one final thing is, here's what's going on in the neighborhood. Like, did you know that Sally
Mm-hmm.
Jones just sold her property? And you hand them the little sheet on, here's what Sally Jones just sold her property for. That might be pretty cool too. And then at the end, you could say, was this helpful? Do you like this kind of stuff? Do you want me to bring it next time? And then you become known
Yeah,
as the real estate lady.
that's a really great idea. So I appreciate that. And my next big uh thing that I want to put into place now that I have the newsletter all completed and figured out is a farm my neighborhood and the area around my neighborhood sending postcards. So that would very easily I could mail those out, but also when I see them in person, and they're probably going to be like, "Oh, I got your postcard last month," and it'll just be another reason to be able to talk to them about real estate. So, but I do like that, giving them something. I thought about, I have newer business cards that I haven't given them yet. So, we didn't have as many people there. So I thought next time I will hand out and say, hey, I don't think you guys have my newest business card, and hand that out, but maybe some kind of little something each time. Yeah. Every time you do that, I think it strengthens that mental, you know, relationship that you're in real estate.
You could title it Hot Facts, and underneath the subtitle is Facts to Impress Your Friends. See, it's a service, it's helpful to them so they could share the information with somebody else and look smart, right?
Right.
The only final thing I'll say with that is you should pretend like you don't know if they want it, because you don't know what they want, but you should act like that. And so you should just say, I'm not sure if you want this. Do you want this? Right. And you hand it to them. Now they're curious. They're going to look at it, say, is this helpful? Right.
Mhm.
Instead of you going, here, take this. Here, I want you to have this. Right. You kind of come softer at it.
And they all want to know what's going on in the neighborhood. So, yeah.
Neighborhood facts. Make sure the facts are on the neighborhood then, not the whole market overall. Or the neighborhood compared to the overall market might be good too.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Angela, good job. All right, Blake.
It's all lunches here. So yesterday I had lunch with a couple that I'm working with to help them buy and sell. They're trying to locate their property first, and then we'll have a house to sell on top of that. So that's a good thing. That'll be two deals. Actually, it's going to end up being three. They have two houses to sell. So we advanced one of those because their tenant is not keeping up with it the way they need to. Anyway, that was yesterday, and then today I have another lunch today that I'll be scheduling, and happen to have a couple of people in that lunch that are very close. And I shouldn't say they're very close friends, but one has already sent me their kid to to buy a house. So
They must
anyway,
really trust you then. You built
yes.
a good relationship with them and you're proving yourself. That's fantastic, Blake. Good job. Cool. All right. For me personally, let's see, yesterday, I've been working on this new listing, getting my feet wet again. And I've been trying to figure out how to double end my property, right? So that's something I've done in the past successfully. The typical agent rarely double ends their listing. In my experience, when I talk to people, that's where you're working with the seller and you're working with the buyer. You're bringing both parties together. And so I was very lucky in my best year when I sold 113. I double ended 25% of my own transactions. And it's really easier to work with yourself than another agent. So whenever you can, it's a lot more fun. Now you got disclosure issues. You got to make sure everybody's on the same par. You got to keep everything separate. And those are all issues we talked about another day. But you want to try to see if you can connect people up. So yesterday I thought of 3 people right off the bat that would this property might be a good fit for. I reached out to all 3. One is thinking about it. Actually, 2 are thinking about it. One's thinking about making an offer, and a third one reviewed it and decided it wasn't for her. So, but I just got out there, and by the way, that was a touch on all 3 of those people. All 3 of those people knew I was thinking about them, whether they decide to move forward or not. It's just like an event, right? Where it's the touch that's the most important, the invitation. Same thing here. Whenever you get a property that might match out to some other people, reach out to them, even if you don't know, because it's a touch. And they're like, wow, thank you for thinking of me. Because that's what all 3 of these people said. Oh, thank you for thinking of me, right? I didn't realize that that was happening. Right. Anyway, hopefully that is a little helpful. This was a fun meeting. Thank you so much for all being here. Have a fantastic and productive rest of your day. Take care.